A truck was driving through the rain. Inside, an old man said to a middle-aged man, "We've really struck gold this time. Who would have thought we'd find something like this in such a small village? Foreigners are going crazy for these things nowadays." The middle-aged man replied, "It's kind of spooky. I thought I heard something moving when we were loading it into the truck." The road was very steep, and the truck made a sharp turn, causing the back of the truck to open and the things inside to fall out. Ripples spread out across the water as the coffin sank. The coffin fell into the water, which was connected to the H-City waterworks. The coffin landed in the water that was connected to the H-City water supply system. The city of H connects to the water treatment plant, and in its urban area, a young man is pouring water. Bai, a 23-year-old graphic designer, boiled some water and is thinking about having a drink. A sudden loud scream startled Bai, causing him to drop his cup. The noise from his neighbor's intimate activities continued, prompting Bai to shout angrily, "Keep it down, it's late." His neighbor agreed but continued anyway. Bai wondered, are those two men? He turned on a zombie movie and comment, "These zombies are too weak. They walk so slowly. How can zombies that can't even open a door destroy the world? A team of Yanuang city management officers could wipe them all out." As Bai was peeling an apple, he was startled by a sudden shout from the next room, "Don't bite." The sound of something being crunched followed, leaving Bai feeling quite frightened. Bai took a knife and went to see what was happening. He reached out to open his neighbor's door. Suddenly, a hand holding a microphone appeared. Bai, terrified, waved his knife and shouted, "What kind of pervert are you? Get out." Bai thought the hand looked strange and scary. Suddenly, he punched a hole in the door with his other hand. Bai's eyes widened in shock. The creature inside burst out laughing. When Bai saw the extra eye growing on the creature's hand, he let out a blood-curdling scream. The creature burst through the door, saying, "I want a man," with a creepy laugh. Bai thought, "What kind of monster is this? And it likes men." He said, "Your look is pretty unique. Is this some kind of prank show?" Bai glanced at it, picked it up, and turned on a high-end hair dryer. The hair dryer hummed with power, then unleashed a torrent of hot air straight at the creature. Haha, that was all in Bai's imagination. In reality, the hair dryer only produced a weak breeze. The monster said, I love you, and Bai replied, "I don't love bald guys. Come back to me when your hair grows long." The monster then started singing to itself. Bai thought, how does a monster have a mouth on its chest? It looks like a zombie, but why is it singing? What a weirdo. Then Bai thought, since the monster isn't thinking, I'll let it experience the high-tech of the new era. I'm such a genius. Haha. Then Bai threw the hair dryer into the monster's chest and mouth, saying, "Go, my $60 high-end hair dryer." Hair dryer, 100,000 volts. Bai shouted, aiming the device at the monster. The creature, oblivious, continued to sing. Is it rubber or something? Bai wondered aloud, before realizing the rather obvious fact the hair dryer wasn't even plugged in. The moment the hair dryer was plugged in, electricity crackled through the monster's room, causing a mini blackout. The other residents grumbled about the sudden power cut. Bai was terrified. The monster was electrocuted and held the microphone, making a funny gesture as if singing. Bai finally relaxed, thinking, the monster must be dead this time. Then he lit a cigarette. The phone rang. It was Bai's girlfriend, Wei. Bai answered the phone and said, "Baby, just now, a wild zombie broke into my house. Baby, are you okay?" "Bai," Wei coughed, "I think we should break up." With that, she ended the call. Bai was heartbroken. He thought, was that zombie a sign of the apocalypse? Either way, my world is over. Bai shot up in bed, his voice echoing through the room as he called out for Wei. His eyes fell on the monster and the reality of the situation hit him. He frantically dialed Wei's number, only to hear the lifeless tone of a disconnected phone. Bai was heartbroken. Wei was his first love. He thought about going to find Wei to ask what happened. He turned on his computer and looked at the news. There was a lot of news about zombie virus infection, and the map marked the helicopter evacuation points. Bai had some doubts. Evacuate H City and the deploying 9 special forces units. He saw the detailed information about the infected. This is a new type of unknown virus. After entering the human body, it dramatically accelerates cellular metabolism and simultaneously damages brain tissue, causing a strong urge to eat living things. Once a person consumes another organism, including humans, their genes immediately begin to mutate. The more types of organisms consumed, the more severe the mutations. Fortunately, the virus was currently only spread through tap water. Although the mutated humans looked like zombies in movies, they weren't infected by being bitten, and their eyesight was poor, just like normal people at night. However, after multiple mutations, their appearance and attacks became terrifying, because they seemed to have the ability to transform like the Monkey King's 72 transformations. People online called these infected individuals big zombie brothers. Bai thought, besides being more tenacious, these things aren't that amazing. I even electrocuted one yesterday. He saw that there's now an Anti-Zombie Brothers event on the shopping app with an initial amount of 10,000 for delivery, directly airdrop to your rooftop. It has all kinds of equipment, and there's also a store treasure, the KW74, worth 69,999. It can increase a person's speed and strength. This drug is a human body internal enhancer imported from the Me country. Actually, most armies around the world have been using this drug, so to help more people survive this virus outbreak, the country has approved the sale of this drug. KW74 is a drug that can greatly increase a person's reaction speed and strength. After injecting this drug, it quickly swallows and replaces the original cells in the human body. This process is extremely painful. The drug's efficacy depends on the person's will, because the more cells are replaced, the stronger the enhancement, but the process is very painful. Even ordinary soldiers can only last for half an hour. After that, an antibiotic must be taken immediately, otherwise, brain function will be severely damaged and turn into dementia. Remember, dear Tilda, Bai complained, this is too expensive. I don't know what's going on outside. There's only a little information online. I can't just stay home waiting for rescue. The monster I met yesterday wasn't that tough. Let's go find Way while they have poor night vision. Clad in all black, Bai armed himself with a flashlight and a watermelon knife. A quick check on his neighbor revealed a gruesome scene, yet an unnatural silence hung over the building. It was as if the inhabitants had vanished. Downtown was a 3-hour trek away. Bai walked out of the house, but strangely, he couldn't see any people or zombies in the neighborhood. Bai spotted a child squatting, which seemed out of place in the eerie atmosphere. He wondered if it could be a zombie. Bai thought, in movies, when someone turns around, it's usually super scary, but this little zombie is nothing to be afraid of. Bai stood far away and called out to him. Bai felt angry at being ignored. He told the kid, it's very late now, and it's dangerous outside, and walked towards him. Before he could finish his sentence, the kid turned around. The face was horrifying and let out a spine-chilling. The child spun around and fell. Bai estimated his own fighting ability at only 5, and the child was saying that it is hungry. Bai didn't want to bully them, figuring it is already soulless and suffering. He decided to end it all. Bai watched as the zombie brother walked away like a mentally challenged person, but then a tentacle suddenly emerged from the ground, shocking Bai. It was a terrifying monster made up of skulls and arms, and it was shouting, "Eat." Seeing how terrifying the monster was, they were scared and ran far away, the monster letting out a strange cry from its mouth. When it saw the monster was faster than him, he accelerated. He noticed that the zombies he came across were able to utter a few words, albeit basic vocabulary. This indicated that they still possessed a sliver of humanity. He came up with a solution, but he was hesitant to implement it. However, in this life-threatening moment, he knew he had no choice. It was his money. That was a month's salary for him. The monster, upon seeing the money, pondered something. The monster realized it was money and became very happy. Seeing that it worked, he breathed a sigh of relief. But then he thought that the monster would soon realize that it was just a bunch of waste paper, so he had to hide. At this moment, he had already arrived at the next community. Just then, the phone rang. It was Bai's mother calling him. His mother was very worried about Bai. Bai replied that she didn't need to worry and that the news was all just rumors. Bai then noticed something appearing on the road ahead. Bai's mother was still worried, but in order not to worry her mother, Bai said that everything was fine and then hung up the phone. It turned out that the previous monster had chased after him again. The monster, screeching strangely, rushed over. Bai immediately hid in a small house, but it was very ilmy inside. Arriving at the 3rd floor, Bai breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing that the monster hadn't chased after him. Noticing some vines in the house, Bai felt strange, as it didn't seem like an uninhabited house. Suddenly, the monster appeared outside the window. The monster broke the window. Bai reacted quickly, suddenly dropping to the ground. The monster also yelled at him to come back. Bai was still in shock and decided to hide in the building for the time being. Noticing the vines in the house, he wondered, how could it be so dilapidated? The ceiling is in such a state. Bai called out loudly, "Is there anyone here?" But there was no response. He then knocked on the door again. He felt that this was an empty building, but seeing so many vines in the house, he found it very scary. The sounds of ticking and "Su-su" echoed around. It was very dark here and he had just lost his flashlight and knife again. Bai felt that this place was very strange, but still mustered up his courage to comfort himself. Bai touched the vines and screamed in fright. Immediately after, he saw something that appeared to be a rat. Bai was relieved to see that it was a rat, thinking about how fortunate it was that no one had seen him, otherwise it would have been too embarrassing. Bai then grabbed onto a vine. He thought that these were left over from filming a horror movie, and the vines were quite resilient. A door opened, and a person came out, anxiously saying, "If you want to live, hurry over here." Bai still hadn't noticed that those weren't vines at all, but the monster's tongues hanging from the ceiling. He even tugged at those tongues. This time Bai finally realized what was happening. He quickly entered the room, closed the door, and thanked the person. Bai took a closer look and realized that the person was a man dressed in women's clothing. The man asked Bai to sit down, and Bai felt a bit uneasy. What's with that killer hairstyle and beard? He thought. It seems I've just escaped one dangerous situation only to fall into another. The man reassured Bai, telling him not to worry. He explained that he was not gay or a pervert, but rather a dedicated artist of shoujo manga, a genre of Japanese comics aimed at young women. He dressed this way, he said, to better understand the hearts of young women. He then gestured for Bai to sit next to him. I had long heard that the cartoonist was a pervert, and seeing is believing. He was a little nervous, but thinking that he was still human, he didn't take it too seriously. The cartoonist took out his work, which showed a woman with the words, "Feel the magic of love with a girl's body," written on it. Bai was taken aback and said no thanks. Changing the subject, let's talk about the zombies outside. Suddenly a penguin appeared, and Bai was shocked, saying, "Look, am I hallucinating? Look at this shape. It's an emperor penguin. No, it's a king penguin." The cartoonist was very calm, and replied, "You even know its species. This is my pet Coco. Last year, I participated in the original comic contest of Penguin.com and won the first prize. It's this penguin. Do you want it? I'll give it to you. It can eat too much, and it has to live in the refrigerator all the time." Bai's mind raced with questions. But penguins can't survive without water. Could they become zombies too? The comic artist quickly explained that each city had 3 water plants, and the contaminated one was the one that supplied the city center, meaning the water here was safe. The monsters had all come from there. Bai's eyes were glued to the penguin, who seemed listless. The penguin hadn't eaten in a day, and the thought of fish was clearly on its mind. As the comic artist spoke of devours outside, he asked Bai for a favor. Then suddenly pulled up his shirt. Bai, thinking the guy was about to go wild in the apocalypse spirit, yelled, "Hey, keep your clothes on. I'm not into that." But the comic artist then revealed a red, angry-looking bump on his arm. He explained that he'd discovered a tiny bug burrowed under his skin this morning, seemingly feeding on his blood. It was no bigger than a grain of rice at worst, but he was worried it might be from the contaminated water. He needed Bai's help to extract it, but warned him to be careful not to crush the bug, as that could lead to infection. Bai, with his knowledge of animals, identified the culprit as likely being a human botfly larva, usually found in rural or mountainous regions, but he'd never heard of them in H City. He suggested getting some alcohol and a sharp knife, and then sterilizing the blade with fire. After all that prep, here we go. Without any numbing stuff, they just had to tie him down and dig it out of his arm, later being careful to avoid the veins. I figured it'd be like dissecting a frog in biology class. Noticing the cut on his stomach, the comic artist explained that, comic artists are pretty broke, so he sold a kidney to get the latest phone. Haha. Bai thought was nuts. He asked Bai his name, but Bai just snapped, "Don't distract me," but he kept pestering Bai about how many people lived at his place, causing Bai to slip up. Blood sprayed out. "I told you to shut up," Bai shouted. "I've hit an artery. You'll bleed out if we don't stop it soon." The comic artist was also startled, but he insisted, "Hold off on the bleeding for a bit. Let's get this bug out first." But the bug proved elusive, wriggling and squirming with incredible agility. "What manner of creature is this?" they gasped. "It's practically performing acrobatics inside him. We have to catch it." The comic artist yelled, "Help, what do I do?" He was shaking like a leaf, gasping, "Oh no, it's biting me." A look of pure pleasure spread across his face. Bai was at a loss for what to do. The comic artist was still convulsing, pleading, "Bai, please, with your pure hands, help me. Just hold on." Bai yelled, and then delivered a swift kick. With a swift and brutal kick, Bai struck the comic artist where it hurt most. The comic artist howled in pain. The bug was finally out. Bai said he needed to make another incision on his chest to get the bug out, but the comic artist, in agony, protested, "I'm already at my limit. You're still cutting me open." But Bai told him to hang in there, and as soon as the bug was out, he would give him blood. Bai was working carefully, but suddenly, whoosh, the bug darted back down. The comic artist's other testicle was crushed as well. 10 minutes later, the comic artist had already started foaming at the mouth. Bai said it would be done soon. At last, the creature emerged, writhing and pulsating. Bai recoiled in disgust, his foot poised to crush it, when the penguin darted forward and swallowed it whole. Bai exclaimed in alarm, "Hey, your penguin just ate the bug. What are we going to do?" But the comic artist, furious, retorted, "Just stop the damn bleeding already." The comic artist groaned in agony, begging Bai to be more careful. Bai explained that Coco had been acting strange ever since they got there, probably because it had eaten something it shouldn't have. Just then the penguin started convulsing violently and then threw up blood. The comic artist, still writhing in pain, pleaded with Bai to be more gentle. But then, a horrifying transformation began. The penguin's head was now covered in a grotesque array of eyes, a truly disturbing sight. Bai, with a growing sense of unease, turned to observe the penguin once more. "Forgive me, he said, but am I experiencing a hallucination? It appears as though your penguin has developed a multitude of eyes on its head. Would you permit me to administer a light slap to my own face to ascertain whether I am in a state of wakefulness? The comic artist was confused. He stood up to get a better look. Suddenly, the penguin's tongue shot out, narrowly missing the comic artist. They both narrowly avoided the attack. The penguin's tongue slammed into the wall with a sickening thud, sending a chill down their spines. Bai, his heart pounding, yanked him into the bedroom and locked the door behind them. They barricaded the door with whatever they could find. Everything was quiet now. Do you think its tongue got stuck or something? The comic artist whispered. Why isn't it moving? Bai wasn't sure, but he knew their makeshift barrier wouldn't hold against that tongue for long. We need to think fast, Bai said. These infected creatures often retain some of their old habits. What did it like to do before? The comic artist replied. It already ate everything it liked. Oh, wait a minute, I still have its wife. Bai gestured towards the plush toy. That's the penguin's wife? He asked, incredulous. The comic artist chuckled. Relax, he said. Coco adores that thing. It wouldn't hurt it. In fact, they get up to all sorts of things when I'm not looking. The door burst open, revealing the monstrous penguin. Bai, his voice filled with panic, screamed, "Get that doll out the hole. We're doomed if it gets in." The doll, thrown in haste, rebounded off the wall and back towards them. A wave of panic washed over them. It was then that the penguin's gaze fell upon the doll. The penguin directly penetrated the doll from top to bottom. The comic artist felt very nervous. The penguin went out with the doll. Bai said we should leave quickly. Maybe after a while it would realize that we are more delicious. Oh, right, I used a hair dryer to kill a zombie before. Do you have a hair dryer? The comic artist was a little puzzled. Is a hair dryer really useful? But he still looked for it. Bai's eyes darted around the room, finally landing on a large window. We're high up, he realized. 5th or 6th floor. Maybe. And look, a tree. If we could just reach it. A look of determination crossed his face. I know how we can escape. Just then, they found the hair dryer, but the cord was ridiculously short. Bai was baffled. How does he even dry his hair with this thing? He wondered. Does he just stick his head right up to the nozzle? Then, to Bai's surprise, the comic artist took off his wig, revealing his shiny bald head. This is how I usually dry my hair, he said. Bai was completely dumbfounded. This cord is ridiculously short, he exclaimed in frustration. Why don't you just use your bald head's laser vision to fry that penguin? The comic artist, now sporting his wig, turned to Bai. So, you said you had an escape plan, he asked. Bai nodded. Have you ever heard of a creature called a flying squirrel in the Tian Shan Mountains? He asked. They're basically squirrels that can glide from tree to tree. I've been thinking, maybe we could try to recreate that membrane they have, using the bed sheet, the one that stretches between a flying squirrel's limbs, that lets them glide through the air. If we jump, there are some trees nearby. We wouldn't be able to fly, but it might cushion our fall, and the sheet would give us more surface area, so we wouldn't just fall straight down. But it's just an idea. I'm not sure if it's even possible. The comic artist was visibly shaken. What if we fall and get skewered on a tree? He stammered. I can't do this. I'm too scared. We're 6 stories up. But Bai was resolute. Staying here is a death sentence, he argued. We've got a better chance if we jump together. Come on. Let's do this. The comic artist finally agreed, but he wanted to take his mobile phone. Bai said, what time is it? Don't take it. Let's go. The comic artist looked out the door and didn't see the penguin. He felt that now that the penguin had a wife, it would definitely not notice him. This mobile phone was what he exchanged for a kidney, and this mobile phone was his kidney. The comic artist grabbed his phone. It was non-negotiable. Spotting no penguin, he thought, might as well grab my bank card too, just in case. Oh, and the laptop. Can't forget that. But then, without warning, the penguin's tongue shot out and pierced right through the comic artist. Bai froze in terror as the penguin turned its gaze towards him. Bai grabbed the bedsheet, a look of grief on his face. We may not have known each other long, he said, but I swear I'll get revenge for you. And with that, he leapt out the window. With a desperate leap, Bai attempted to replicate the flight of a flying squirrel. He smashed through the first set of branches, his momentum carrying him forward, until he snagged onto the next branch, narrowly avoiding a disastrous fall. Fortunately, he landed safely, but Bai broke a few ribs and his left hand temporarily lost consciousness. Bai thought it was too dangerous outside, so it seemed that he had to go home first. City is now full of dangers, and zombie brothers are very powerful. It seems that he can only spend a lot of money to buy the medicine online and try it. Bai finally made it home. He thought of the 100,000 his grandmother had left him for his wedding. It was going to come in handy now. That comic artist was too obsessed with money for his own good. Bai quickly placed an order for the medicine, which was scheduled to arrive on his rooftop in 12 hours. The next day dawned, and a light rain was falling. Bai was taken aback. Wow, Talk about door-to-door service, he exclaimed. With H-City in lockdown, the only way to get my girlfriend back will probably be by chopper. Looking at the package, I couldn't help but think, this stuff is like a cheat code for life. I can't wait. Inside the helicopter, the pilot confirmed. Order 68,539 complete, requesting return. One crew member chuckled. 50 plus deliveries this morning. The boss is rolling in it. Another scoffed. These suckers probably won't even dare use it. Haha, me country dumped this stuff 5 years ago, and the bigwigs are too busy to care. International terror groups are probably the biggest customers for this junk. The boss must have greased a lot of palms to sell this to the public. Besides, selling it boosts the survival rate. You know, the official death toll was only 35 at the start. Wink, wink. I'd bet my life that less than 10 people who bought that stuff would even dare to use it, and maybe 2 could last 5 minutes. One of them scoffed. Boosting human performance. Yeah, right, and for 70,000. In your dreams. Looking down at the city, he added. H-City's just a giant cage now. Those zombies are brutal, the other replied. But who cares? I'm up here. They can't reach me. They both laughed, oblivious to the zombie creeping up behind them. Bai read the instructions and then yelled. You've got to be kidding me. This stuff is supposed to be injected straight into the heart, then endure FIVE-FIFTY minutes of a transformation process, extremely painful. The longer the endurance time, the more significant the strengthening effect. If you cannot endure it, you need to inject the blue syringe into the heart again to neutralize the medicinal properties. Note: please be sure to use the medicine cautiously. It will not be effective if it does not exceed 5 minutes. After using the medicine, please inject the blue medicine in time within 50 minutes, otherwise you will explode and die. Bai could not accept it and shouted, despicable merchant, my 70,000. Bai's mind was a whirlwind of confusion. The ad hadn't mentioned anything about how to administer the medicine. He was desperate. He looked at a photo of himself and Wei, his girlfriend, and nervously lit a cigarette. Bai looked at his chest and made a decision. I'll risk it. He turned on a soothing song to calm his emotions, constantly reassuring himself that it was just a needle in the mirror. It should be fine. With a cry of his girlfriend's name, Bai thrust the needle into his chest, the agonizing pain immediately coursing through him. Bai's heart hammered in his chest. He clutched his head, screaming in agony. His heart felt like it was about to explode, yet it still beat with terrifying force. The sound of his muscles ripping apart echoed in his ears, and he could feel the rush of blood through his veins. The world around Bai seemed to lose its color, turning into a muted gray. His eyes snapped open, and he felt an overwhelming surge of power coursing through his veins. Time of administration: 5 minutes and 13 seconds.